Welcome back. So this is the Oasis Digital curriculum session where we all get together and do a little bit of unscripted coding, talking, discussing the state of all things Angular and Angular adjacent. And this week we've got David Moore joining us remotely. We have Kyle Cordes, Bill Odom, Zachary. So
Zachary's like Prince. He only has one name.
Yeah, that's right.
absolutely.
And most of us are on Twitter.
Yep, you can
Look below.
look below in the video description, and we'll have our Twitter handles listed there.
I think that's technically called the doobly-doo. That's the
doobly-doo?
doobly-doo.
The Doobly-Doo.
Yes.
Yeah. The Vlog Brothers coined that one.
No,
Cool.
they adopted it. They
Did they?
proudly give credit, but yes, the doobly-doo, the description below. So
Got it.
technical term.
All right, so jumping right in, we were talking about the Angular curriculum and taking a look at it and seeing where we are, seeing if there's any branches that had shown up. And we had a couple comments that folks heard there was like a lot of interesting things learned whenever we looked at the accessibility item. So we wanted to go back and recap what was needed before we can merge that in, and then we were going to go ahead and just turn that back over to David to take another swing at it. But the basic idea is if we can go through here, we should see pretty quickly some like obvious things like, oh yeah, here's where things went wrong. The idea was that he had used the Sonar Cube tooling to say, please auto suggest fixes for all of this, and went through and applied those. And then when we got to looking at the details of them, I believe the Reddit search one is likely going to give us kind of like our most obvious example.
We're gonna start with the easy ones, not the hard.
Well, it's just like
Yeah,
the biggest
yeah.
takeaway. Just
Yeah.
to summarize, the big takeaway was that on items like this, where we have an image, and the idea is to have it so that in order to make it accessible, you're supposed to have an alt tag to describe the image. And if you just go through with a naive approach of just do what SonarCube says, you find yourself in a spot where you might be tempted to do what we see here on line 18, which is, we're going to attach an alt tag to describe the image as an image from Reddit. When the entire idea is that the alt tag's not supposed to say, like, yes, an image is an image. Like, that's not helpful.
The screen reader already knows it's an image.
Right, it's supposed to actually describe the semantics of what the image contains. And so for most of these images, because we're doing this dynamic binding, we're iterating over collections of information, displaying images with each piece of information, we actually need to make sure our data model is actually sufficient enough to support the notion of attaching a description to that image.
Right.
And so for this item, that's what we did. We actually dug into the data model that we already were getting back from the API and found that the title actually acts as kind of a suitable descriptor of the image that it's associated with.
Right.
And so in this case, we were able to luckily just get the right data point and get this one the rest of the way over.
That's funny because actually one of my, it's not a big gripe, but one of my gripes about this example in the past has been these images, as cute as they often are, because they're often like little baby animals, have no additional context with them. And I can see just fine. I can hear just fine. I can move the mouse just fine. So not really so much an accessibility concern for me, but an annoyance that it's like, I'd like a little more information. So as is often the case with making something more accessible, it'll actually make the application better for everybody that uses it, even if they need it.
Also, I think we've read last time, accessibility is clearly a full stack application design concern, not a did I follow a tool recommendation on which element to use concern.
I completely agree with that, and whatever we can do in our own work and our own data sets, things like that, to make this stuff better, I absolutely want to do it. I am a little bit concerned that we might be letting the perfect be the enemy of the good, or like the really good be the enemy of the good, because I still think, quite a lot of low-hanging fruit that we could take advantage of here.
Well, we did a bunch of it.
Okay.
Well, we had a few things left in here that had to be worked on a little more.
The primary thing that's left in this branch that I can remember was like those alt tags. Some of them were actually like less helpful. Like adding them actually added negative value to the situation.
Explain that to me. That's what I'm confused
Well,
by.
if you just click through it.
Well, yeah, let's see if I can find it.
It's not that I don't believe you. I just don't understand.
So
that one we fixed.
So the ones we could easily fix, we fix. So see, that one we could easily fix. But maybe if we look through the previous commit, we might spot the one that was hard to fix. Yeah, these were.
And I noticed that we used to have the bold tag, and I had replaced them with the EM tags. What was the reason for switching over to span?
Well, because the EM, the emphasis was just kind of meaningless semantics for the use for what was in for what was being used for.
Can you go back to the particular example?
Would you maybe look at one where he?
There it is, right there. So
Yeah.
So what was probably like a B tag before or an I tag
An
before?
I tag.
So it was like an I, and the
Oh,
I
right,
tag.
right.
So that wasn't the I was not semantic. That was just copied and pasted from the material icon example site. And if you go read their FAQ of why did they use an I tag, they used it because it was one letter, right? That was okay.
That's not a good That's
Right, so-
not a good reason for
Right.
it.
So the accessibility tool rightly says this is not semantic. I is not a very semantic tag. You shouldn't use it. You should use M for emphasis. But the problem is changing the I to the M. That's also wrong too because we're not emphasizing the word add here.
This is not
Gotcha.
changed from italics to a generic
Right.
emphasis. It's
Right.
I is being
That makes sense.
abused
Right.
for icon when it really meant
Right.
italics in
And so if you look at it,
HTML.
this is already inside an A tag,
Right.
right? So we already have
Right.
the semantic of this is gonna do something or take you somewhere or something. Well, we don't need like more semantic inside there. This actually, like the span, which is hey, this is just the appearance of this, is exactly the right semantic here.
Now, I am curious, is there specific, I mean, all of the things that you said about, SonarQube or some other tool saying, hey, I is not a good idea because I used to mean italics and it still does, but there's a better way to do that now. None of that really applies here because this is just an element to hang an icon off of.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
there guidance somewhere that says, here's the right way to do icons accessibly? Like, should there be an alt tag on that span that says,
No, it doesn't need it. Can you bring it back up, Paul?
Paul,
It does say add
look at a lot
inside
of
the.
This is how the show happens. We end up perseverating on little bits of it. It happens.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
David. Go ahead and say what you were going to say.
Yeah.
I keep.
Inside of the span tag, it does say add, so it knows it's a link with the text add.
Right.
Which is perfect.
I am not an A11Y expert, an accessibility expert, so to answer, I can't fully answer your question, Bill. There might be a better way to do what we've done here.
I want to believe you, Kyle.
But this is a little more accessible.
But I agree. But there might be a way. There might be guidelines that say, hey, you're going to have icons all over your application. People who can't see your icon. So there's going to be little words that pop up like add and delete.
So hear me out. As I understand, the material icons people know this, and they did, in fact, the most ideal accessible way of doing an icon. In that, literally, they wrote a selector that says, if you have something with the class material icon around the word add, then that turns into the icon visually.
Right.
But the word add is already the text inside there. So you don't need to like make an alt text that says add. You've already got that beat. The actual text says add.
No, I get all of
great.
it. I get all of it, and
Yeah.
I believe that's probably correct.
Yeah.
But I wonder about icons, as icons being a thing for non-sighted users, if there is something else or a different way or whatever. This all makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I've not read anything about it, and I'm just curious to know if icons or other picture accent things, whatever, if there's like specific guidance, like if you do these things, it'll be even better. So David, really, when you're taking another look at
Somebody
this,
could research that.
now that we know how we should be doing icons, instead of using I or EM, see if there's anything specifically about icons and anything else kind of related to that. That's really all I'm getting at. I think Kyle's probably right.
And I actually kind of wonder whether a person using the accessibility tool wants to be bothered by the fact it's an icon. The fact that this is an add link, like that's actually the perfect semantic. And like,
but is it descriptive enough? Because I feel like they should have like titles.
Yeah,
like,
I'm where Zachary is on this.
if the word add was not sufficient, then you could add one of those area tags to say, here's a more elaborate, more complete.
Well, like a lot of times, like
When
a
you
lot
say
of my
area,
icons, I have
you're
like.
talking about ARIA?
Yeah.
Aria.
Area.
Yeah. When you say area, I think of an open field.
Yeah. I like open field. What can I say? Yeah.
Gotcha.
So maybe
Your
it's
pronunciation
possible,
of aria was not accessible to me, Kyle.
it's possible that we should go even further. But I do think that what we did there was sufficient to be able to ship this bit of code as a better
It is
code.
certainly better.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to be the guy doing the thing I just said not to do, which is like, no, let's wait and see if we can make it perfect.
And Paul was going to try to spot one that was not yet sufficiently good. Were you successful?
I'm actually not being very successful at this at all.
I think you're
I'm diffing the.
you're diffing to the wrong. You're diffing off the prep thing instead of diffing off the actual base of the branches.
You want to diff off my commit,
There we go.
not the one you edited. Yeah.
think that's the diff. This is the diff.
I'm very concerned that this whole accessibility conversation, people watching this later are going to be like, how about they make the fonts bigger?
Yeah, actually, is that missing from our prep list?
It's already
drop
done.
our res.
It's already done.
Well,
This is 1920.
It didn't work.
But yeah, but even 19.
We can try Gate Cracker next time.
Is there a way to make the fonts bigger on just everything, or do you?
Oh,
There are. Yes,
But
we
it's
can,
not-
we can further
yeah.
turn that crank.
Yeah, maybe for next time.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine somebody trying to watch this. And for anybody watching, we can actually see what you're going to be seeing on another screen in here.
It's really tiny.
Yeah, it's really small.
That's my sense, is that it's.
I mean, really tiny. Sorry, people at home. Send Kyle an email for a refund.
So we have those Twitter handles, so you can talk to Bill about the font sizes.
My name is Kyle Cordes. That is Cordes. My home address.
Yeah, I'm actually not seeing any leftovers.
Yeah. So I know there are some.
We-
They're thoroughly covered in the previous episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hopefully.
Can I have you guys try a real quick thing that might help us with the font sizes?
Maybe.
Go to source tree preferences.
If it's been possible. Oh, the menus are
Wow.
awesome.
Menus are great.
Everything the same as the
Wow.
menus,
Paul,
Paul.
that's big. Probably under.
It's probably under tools.
Let me try a thing real quick.
I'll relaunch it once the.
Oh
change.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it didn't catch it.
It's a Windowsism.
Nope,
Yeah.
didn't work.
Yeah.
That
All right, so
is
where are we going?
I think tools maybe. We want
options. Is there a
probably
setting?
options. There's a diff tab or in the diff,
Oh. Yeah, where you can change the
and then you
font.
can change the font size for the diff view.
I hate.
Well, that's still better.
I mean, they're trying really hard, but just the results are not yet great.
No, and they're very different. Like it's a different experience on the Mac and on the Windows.
One of the things I really love.
Let me guess which one's better.
One of the things I really love about tools kind of built on web technology is that
Control plus.
unless
they
right,
benefit unless they actively
Yeah.
defeat it. they
yeah, and
benefit.
if they actively defeat it, you can usually go grab some script to shove in
Yeah.
that defeats their defeat of it.
I might have written a couple of those.
Yeah. Because just like letting the user decide that they want everything to be bigger.
Yeah.
Talk about accessibility. That is
Yeah,
accessibility.
before we started the recording, I was whining really loudly about, it's 2019, people. What's the deal?
All right, gonna pause the recording.
Okay, so we'll see you in a minute here.
Bye.